The Vocal Studio.
Welcome to TVS Podcast Find Your Inner Voice. We talk about voice, singing, vocal coaching, and life around it. Welcome, guys. I'm Hanna. I'm vocal coach. I'm very nice to be here again with you. It's been a little while since we had our last episode of the Find Your Inner Voice. We've been still here at the vocal studio teaching, giving lessons, and also recently more online contents were more for practical tips for the singers to get hands-on exercises and tips. So if you're interested in those, also check out our mini lessons that's done by different coaches at the Vocal Studio Singapore. Okay, so today we came back to this format of podcast. I mean, you can also watch it as a YouTube episode because there was a special topic that we thought would be very helpful for all the singers and people who are interested in voice care. Because voice is not just singing about emotion. It's a lot of work using your actual vocal muscles and body, and we had this very nice opportunity to meet a special person who's going to be a guest speaker with me today, and that's going to be also today's topic. So let me first introduce our guest speaker. Hello, good morning, Miss Pooja.
Hi, good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Pooja. Thank you, Hanna and the Vocal Studio, for having me here today. I'm just going to introduce myself, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm Pooja. I'm a physiotherapist. I specialize in performing arts and vocal physiotherapy, which is fairly new here, I believe.
Yes, it's very, very new. I think from you, it was the first time that I ever heard of it. That was really, really refreshing. Yes, and so Miss Pooja is a vocal physiotherapist who specializes in the voice care. So what is that all about? I'm going to ask her in a bit. But let me give a little more bio about Miss Pooja. So you studied in Australia and the degree in physiotherapy.
Yeah.
Later, you moved on to the master's degree specializing in the vocal physiotherapy.
The master's degree was in performing arts medicine, and then part of that was voice care, and then through that I ended up in a specialist clinic in London where they see mostly vocal cases, and so I did vocal physio through that. So it was
I see.
life led me that way, basically.
So it was arts performance medicine.
Performing arts medicine.
Performing arts
so
medicine.
it's like a master's program by UCL London, and basically it's a degree for anyone in the medical field. So like my classmates were doctors, speech therapists, sports therapists, and so you're learning different aspects of managing a performing artist. So not just the rehab aspect, but we do a little bit of performance psychology, some other general bits, and obviously you have a focus on rehab as well because that's a large component. You look at vocal care, so you look at the different aspects that make up a performing artist, but not just like a dancer or a singer. You kind of cover all of the different
Wow.
art forms.
That's a very interesting topic, actually.
Yeah.
Right? So it's basically the program itself brings people from very different fields.
Yeah.
Performing arts, medicine, healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
then
really cool
yeah.
because because it's such a niche course. Like I had 10 classmates in a master's program. That was it. That was our entire cohort.
Yeah.
But each person was unique because, for example, I did circus arts years before, and then I'm a physio as well. I had classmates that were working in the emergency department as doctors, but then their side gig was like they were a stand-up comedian, or I had a GP friend who was also a cellist, or a physio
see.
friend that was a cheerleader. So everyone had their professional medical backgrounds, but they
yeah.
also had their personal artistic pursuits.
I see. Okay. So it was really people who were passionate about both
Very,
sides, right?
yeah.
Okay. I can resonate. Yeah, I can resonate a lot. So that reminds me of like I did the music therapy
Yeah.
as my master's. It's a little bit similar, I
Yeah.
think, when it's about like majoring that field. There are some people who were coming in from actually artistry, right? Music major, and there are some people who are coming from the education background, and there are a lot of people who are also coming from the medical background as
Yeah.
well to study how the
Yeah.
music and arts can benefit people.
Yeah.
And you are also doing something similar. So, that's really lovely. This is how you got to go deeper into the vocal
Yeah.
physiotherapy side of it as well, right? So, your experience of working after achieving the degree was really working for the specialist performing arts clinic in London.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice like to see like the people that you worked with. There were artists from Royal Opera House and the West End shows.
Yeah.
Oh, Mamma Mia, Bodyguard, and Matilda.
Yeah.
The most recent work that you did in Singapore was working with the Mamma Mia crew, the international tour crew.
Yeah. So
That's
they were
really
touring
cool.
here.
I went to watch their last show.
You did?
Yeah,
Did you
I did.
enjoy it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. They're amazing. They're so nice.
Oh, wow. So you got to also work with them.
It was very full circle moment because I was working with them when they were rehearsing in London,
Mm.
and then I happened to move back before they toured Singapore, so I got to see them here as well.
So
and
they
then
were performing in London, and then that's the same.
So Mamma Mia is interesting. They basically have different productions. So
Yeah.
there is the international tour, which
Yeah.
was rehearsing in London.
Yeah.
But then there's a Mamma Mia West End show, and
Yeah.
then there's a Mamma Mia the After Party, which is like an interactive dining experience. So there's different types of Mamma Mias. So I've worked with all of them, but the one that visited Singapore, their rehearsal space prior to going on tour was in London next to our clinic
Wow.
that I was working at. So I was
Wow.
seeing them there as well.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
That's so nice, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll ask a little more about, how that experience was like. But then the first question that I would have now for you is, so you have worked with a lot of singers, or maybe non-singers, a lot of artists too,
Yeah.
performing artists. How does that actually work? I can kind of have a basic idea of vocal physiotherapy. It's helping and making it better.
Yeah.
But what's really happening in the session? What do you really do?
Right. So vocal physio basically the aim of it is to reduce the tension in the larynx. And by that, I mean we're trying to remove the effort from the larynx and move it to somewhere else that's sustainable.
Okay.
So people that usually come in present with a lot of muscular restriction that's limiting their voice. So what I'll be doing is laryngeal manual therapy, firstly, after assessing them, obviously. So that usually involves a lot of releases to the muscles around the larynx, so like tongue root tension, looking at the jaw symmetry, how well the larynx itself is moving, and then I'll do some passive stretches for the larynx itself, so we're getting stretches to the deeper structures which you can't get to by hand. And then we'll talk about why that tension is arising. So there has to be a cause for the tension. So it's not just addressing the symptom, but why is that symptom coming into place? Is it that they're singing in a not great posture, or is there some other muscles that we can strengthen to take away the load from the neck muscles that's causing that tension? Is it that they're bracing somewhere else and then they're increasing the pressure that the larynx has to then overwork? And obviously then this works well with speech therapists or vocal coaches, singing teachers. So it's sort of working with everyone to figure out what is going on and try our best to stop it from happening again.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, now hearing that, it's I really love the way how you put like this laryngeal, tensions
Yeah.
to be somewhere else, to
Yeah.
be placed somewhere else that's more sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of the people, a lot of singers, it's a very natural response. It's kind of almost unintentional kind of response the body feels when
Yeah.
we try to sing and then sing higher and sing louder. This is the first and, foremost access that people would feel
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, they don't get to really acknowledge or recognize what are the other ways, right?
Yeah.
So then you just mentioned that it's also working closely with sometimes a speech therapist and also specialist, in that field. And And you did mention something about the passive
Stretches.
stretches, right? So how does that look a little bit different from other, medical specialists that also provides a kind of like, for example, speech therapy,
Yeah.
right? Or the ENT specialists.
Yeah. So the important thing is that everyone has their unique specialization, and it works best when everyone's working together. So
Yeah.
hurrah, teamwork. But basically, what a speech therapist typically does would be assessing. So we're all assessing in our own ways from our unique backgrounds.
Yeah.
A speech therapist would then likely give them exercises to help enhance how the vocal folds are moving, make sure that they're vibrating properly, give them techniques on how to manage their voice better. So it's more of how it's moving internally.
Yeah.
They might also do some breath work, and ENT would be great with diagnosing, identifying any specific issues that are going on. They can scan. They can also prescribe medications. If needed, they can offer surgery. Where I come in from, it's more from addressing that physical tension that's restricting them. So if there's muscular tension in the way, that's my role to sort of manipulate it and reduce that, so everyone else can also do their job even better, because it's every one of us is helping each other get the same outcome, which
Yep.
is get the patient better.
Yep.
Because it's really hard to get things moving properly if there is tension literally holding you back.
Yes.
So if you reduce the tension and then you get them to do all of these exercises, that's easier. But similarly, if we just reduce tension but they've not changed how they're using their voice, then the tension will come back. So you need both sides of things.
Yes.
And then obviously taking that zoom out approach of, okay, this is what's happening here, but then what is happening to the rest of
Yeah.
it? Are they doing this? Like craning their neck forward? Are they arching their back? Is the costume playing a role? For example, Lion King, really large headpieces, their neck gets pulled forward, that will increase tension here. Or Kinky Boots, which is another musical theater show where they're in high heels, that changes your posture, which then changes your voice. So
Yeah.
all of these other things that can sort of play a role, whether they have a dance background beforehand, which means the way they're used to using their muscles prior to starting singing are different. So your body's used to something else, but now you're asking it to do something completely different. So then your body goes, well, what do you want me to do? And trying to find that middle ground. So it's like a combination of things. Yes, we focus a lot on the voice as a voice physio, and the structures around here and addressing that tension, but also then zooming out and being like, okay, let's look
see.
at this from a whole body perspective as well.
I see. So you need to really have the eyes. Also, you need to be able to then see, right, what's
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
not just inside of the throat, but also in overall usage of the person's
and
body,
then it's
right?
correlating that, right? So like if an ENT has done a scope and I get the video, then I can correlate what I'm seeing that's happening internally to what I'm feeling externally when I'm touching and feeling the structures.
Yeah.
And then that helps to guide my treatment as well, because then I know when I do this, I'm likely to see this change, which will then correlate with what's happening internally, and then trying to get all of that to match up. So each profession is super important and has a very important role to play, and then it works really well together.
I see. Okay, great. Wow. So I think I got a better idea, more detailed idea about this. And then the biggest thing is that it's really not easy to remove the tension.
Nope.
Structurally, sometimes it's just there.
Yep.
Sometimes the way we use our voices
Yeah.
kind of reinforces that bad habits of building
Yeah.
that tension. As a vocal physio, you do work with a lot of singers.
Yeah.
Because we want to focus also a little more experience of the singers and how, your insight can also be helpful for the singers. So is there any kind of the major reasons when you just mentioned, sometimes it's coming from, yes, it can be the costume, it can be some of the external factors, but from the singers, more about the use of the voice, habitual kind of things. Any reasons that you would point out as a major, contributors that causes a vocal tension?
Yeah, so there are a couple. Posture plays a big role. So if you have someone that's sticking their neck forward constantly, so if you look at someone that's screaming, their neck bulges out, you can see those giant muscles standing up. Look at anyone screaming, you'll see it. Those are your sternocleidomastoids. They sit like a strap across, so that can build up a lot of tension. It sort of keeps your head anchored this way. So if you try voicing with your head sticking forward, it's so much harder to do. But anytime you try, if you notice someone that's struggling with a difficult number, or they're trying to hit the upper registers, you'll have them crane forward.
Yes.
But then, and that's sort of like an intrinsic response, but then it doesn't work so well because then you're increasing the tension and then you're locking everything up. So that's one of the things that tends to happen. The other thing that I commonly see is bracing through the tummy muscles.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about core engagement. I'm talking about when you just squeeze everything and you squeeze your abs so hard and you're trying to project the voice, but then you're creating so much tension and pressure build up here that everything here clamps up.
I see.
And then what you end up with is a voice that kind of cuts out at the top or is very unreliable in the mid to upper registers, or it starts to sound really breathy when you try and push through. That could be because of a lot of bracing through the tummy muscles, which is then where we are working more with the core muscles, trying to engage the right things so that you get the support that you need without the bracing. We want support, we don't want bracing.
Wow. It's also very similar to what the vocal coaches do.
Good,
I mean, you need to have
it's
a good
all
ear,
hand in hand.
right? Okay, because it's quite important and interesting because a lot of the times, yes, the core engagement is very important, right? But then people are thinking that okay, because the core engagement is important, the more I squeeze, the more I activate it, it's going to always help me to push the sound. But it doesn't actually work like that. It can actually block the sound from
for sure
coming out more freely.
Yeah, right? And those are the instances where maybe if I do a release around sort of the larynx, it might feel better for a little bit, and then it will just circle back to the same problem because they've not addressed the cause of the problem, which is how they're using their different muscles.
Nice.
So until we correct that, then we're just going to be stuck in a loop of release, feel better, release, feel better, and then come back with the same problem. So those are some of the few common things that I see. There's obviously a lot more that goes into people, the problems that people have. If we're talking about performance, for example, performance timings are a big issue. So most shows tend to be late evening. They start at 7 or 8 o'clock. They end at 10 p.m. Now, if you're a singer singing till late and you prefer to have your dinner after the show, at 10 p.m., there's probably nothing open except McDonald's or really greasy fried food, which means your meal timing is really late. So you're eating super late. You're going to bed straight after. You've had really greasy, oily food, likely acidic. And then that can increase your chance of developing acid reflux, which then in turn affects the voice. So it's like a combination of all these things that can affect your voice. So, these are some of the things that performers quite frequently face with, like performance schedules. Then you have rehearsals in the morning, so then you're up early again, and then how much sleep are you getting? Are you hydrating well? Are you eating well? When are you eating? Do you take your time to eat? So just a few things that can affect the voice.
So it'll be like somebody like as a patient or a client to come to you, and then like the more you ask questions, the more kind of problems that start to trace around just in one simple problem you thought that has only one simple cause.
Yeah. It's never really that straightforward, is it? It's usually by the time people come to you, they've come to you because things have snowballed. But being aware of it is helpful because then you can mitigate it earlier and you don't really end up with as big an issue.
So, definitely agree. So all the things that you just mentioned about, eating late, greasy food, all the going to the sleep very early right after the food, causing the acid reflux, right? All these things, it's basically, and the hydration, the sleep, right? These are the basic things that as a singer, we try to emphasize.
Yeah.
I mean, for the regular performers, I think these need to be quite strict for them to really sustain the healthy performance, the life, because they have to use a voice very regularly.
Yeah.
For the people who do more habit-based singing, they wouldn't care about it that much, right? So it's not very severe, or it's not very obvious that they feel about the change of the voices.
Yeah.
But it's still there, right? Whether you do it like from 1 time, 2 times. And if you do practice a good habits, basically good habits of voice care, then I think even for learning singing, the progress, you get to see a lot more consistent progress in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, rather than sometimes I wake up with my voice is like, not good. I
Yeah.
go to the lesson, it doesn't feel like it's good. Hey, like,
Yeah.
So taking a good understanding of how voice works and what are the things that affect the voice, either physical usage and the way you live. I mean, people will probably question, when is a good time for me to visit a voice, physio,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What are the moments? Because sometimes I can just handle it myself. Sometimes I would need it.
Yeah.
When do you suggest the people to come and find you? And then what will be some of the, you might do it like in a short term, right?
Mhm.
Immediate, treatment. And there might be also like a little more long-term treatment,
Yeah.
things that need like a long-term care. Yeah. What would be the differences of that? And then what occasions that people can find you?
So usually my general advice is if you start to notice vocal fatigue, meaning your voice starts to feel tired quicker than it normally would, that's the first sign. So it's best to get it sorted then. Some of the symptoms that I normally treat would be issues like vocal fatigue, loss of resonance, a change in their vocal range, whether it's whichever part of the register that they're struggling with, but a change in their vocal range. I'll see people that have that feeling of a sensation of a lump in their throat, especially with swallowing. It's like, oh, there's just something there. I'll see people with jaw issues. So like when they open their mouth, the jaw kind of moves around sideways. So like a lack of jaw symmetry. That's when
Oh.
people come to me as well.
I have that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was, never going to go away.
Well, it depends on why it's there and it can go away.
Okay. That's good to know.
And then I'll also have people that will come in because their singing teachers or their vocal coaches are like, I know they can do more, but for some reason we have plateaued with their progress. So maybe there is tension. Just go and get it screened.
Okay.
That sort of thing. I sometimes have people come in for maintenance. So there is no specific issue going on, but say they're doing an 8 shows a week, 12-week gig, 3 hours long show each time. And so they don't want to wait for tension to creep in. So they do it more as like a preventative thing of like maybe once a month they'll just come in just for me to tinker around with. But in terms of when you should, it would be when you start to experience vocal fatigue would be the first sort of indication. Some of the other things would be if you're experiencing pain with vocalizing or pain in and around the larynx, like around the neck region. So these are some of the issues that I normally see. And then your second question was in terms of short-term or long-term treatment.
Yeah.
This is very individual. So there's no one-size-fits-all with this. Some people, one session, great. They're back on stage, no problems for a good while until they're on a high vocal load again. And then again, it's sort of that maintenance thing or a preventative thing, or they just need a little bit of help along the way. Some people, it can take a while. It depends on at which part of that timeline they come in.
Yeah.
Have they come in when they've completely like lost their voice? How much tension there is? Are there multiple things that we're working with? Is it we have to correct the posture as well? We have to correct a bunch of other things. And then these are also where they're also seeing the speech therapist, the ENT, maybe a vocal coach or singing teacher as well. And then everyone's kind of working hand in hand. So everyone does small bits and then we slowly move upwards with that. So it really depends from one session to quite a few sessions. What I typically tell people is if we have completely plateaued, Like we've done 3 to 5 sessions regularly and there is absolutely no change, like 0% progress, not even temporarily, then maybe vocal physio might not be the right answer. That's and by that point they should have seen either an ENT or a speech therapist, definitely an ENT, to see what else is going on potentially. Maybe it's not muscular tension that's causing it. So it really depends. But as long as they're noticing some amount of progress, then we're on the right track with things.
I see. Okay. So it's really basically, you can just understand it as for any sports player or athlete, they would have their sports coach, right? There will be a lot of directors. There will be somebody who's guiding you with a skill set. There will be definitely the sports physiotherapist, right?
Yep.
Who help you to really take care of your body in a healthy way as well. So in that sense, a lot of different people collaborate to make the best out of, performing the show. We are surrounding our topic more closely to this muscular tension, right?
Yeah.
Could there be a reason that whether as a singer or a non-singer, people lose their voice very easily? Either they become very breathy or they just have sore throat too easy. They always develop sore throat so easily. And then something is going on. It's maybe the weather, but maybe there's another reason that they're tensing up their muscles. Could that be related?
Yeah, people that lose their voice frequently, it can be a variety of reasons. It could be, again, muscular tension that keeps building up. So people that abuse their voice, maybe you have to scream in a show quite a lot. That's the role you're playing. Maybe you have a job that requires you to project your voice quite a lot. Maybe you work in a bar where it's really loud and there's loud music playing and you have to constantly scream over the top of that. So you're working in loud environments, so you're trying to battle the environment. That's a lot of vocal abuse that you're putting your larynx through. So that can cause it. It can be not hydrating enough. It can be maybe just the environment that you're in. If you are prone to upper respiratory infections, then that can trigger it. If you are prone to reflux, that can sometimes lead to that sensation of mucus buildup. So it can be a variety of causes. It can be the weather. It can be maybe there's something else going on pathologically internally that maybe you want to get an ENT to screen. It can be how you're using your voice, really, like if there is poor engagement, poor technique, more so on the singing front, that can cause it. It can maybe be sort of your accent and the way you use your voice, which can result in excessive tongue tension, which can then cause you to lose your voice more frequently. So it's a variety of causes that can sort of result in a person losing their voice frequently.
I see.
Yeah.
You mentioned the accent.
Yeah.
Accent leading to a lot of tongue tension.
Yeah.
Could you maybe go a little bit more specifically about, if there is any specific accents that people use?
Anything that sort of like involves sort of using the tongue excessively, where you're sort of like jutting it too far and pulling back a lot. So anytime you're pulling your tongue back excessively, tongue retraction, you're lifting that whole mechanism up. So you're limiting the space that your larynx has to move. And so those types of speech patterns are typically what would cause a lot of tension.
Or something like this.
That's really not helpful.
Okay, very good to know.
Yeah.
Very good to know. Yeah. Oh, relaxing of the tongue is a very important topic in singing as well.
Exactly. So it's all roads lead to the same destination, pretty much. It's just different ways of tackling the same issue, but then you're sort of covering all the bases. So like vocal coaches and singing teachers will also emphasize the same thing, right? Of like trying to relax the tongue. Speech therapists will also do the same thing. Physiotherapists will also do the same thing, both with like massaging and giving specific exercises for it. But it's all everyone's trying to get to the same destination,
which is a healthy, efficient, effortless use of the voice, I would say, right? Yeah. Most optimal, healthy ways of singing or speaking. Okay, very good. Yay. Thank you for sharing all those insights. And then for the viewers, if you have the questions later on, you can also leave it in the comment section. Then as and when we find it, we'll try to answer those through the comments too. I'm gonna move on to maybe the final question. Final question would be we are sharing the similar knowledge. And I think it's very important for the vocal coaches and singers actually to have a good understanding about how the body actually because everybody has a body, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes our teaching is very much depending on the intuition, but that intuition needs to base on a very good sound understanding of how the body works, right? Sometimes the way we lead can guide the singers to develop not a necessarily good habit, right?
Yeah.
And in our hopes of trying to push them a little too far, anything that you would maybe highlight that sometimes vocal coaches can take into account when we work with the singers?
So I think vocal coaches and singing teachers, you guys know your students and their voices the best. You've sort of seen them from where they started to wherever you get them to. So you're almost the best judge of when things are starting to go wrong. And so flagging that from an early stage is really helpful, both to the student and also mentally, where you're like, okay, I need to watch out for this. So if you start to notice that maybe their voice is starting to change, it's starting to get a bit hoarse, maybe a bit breathy, maybe it starts cutting out in certain bits, it started to become a little bit unreliable. Maybe you notice that they're starting to use these weird strategies to get the sound out, like they're just sticking their head forward. They didn't do that before. Maybe there's something else going on that they're trying to use these tactics to try and force the voice out where they weren't doing it before. Or maybe they are arching their back more to try and sort of lengthen through there, which then takes away that support that you have through the core. Or maybe it's sort of things like, for example, they're a teenager and they wear crop tops all the time and they feel the need to suck in their belly. And so therefore they're bracing a lot. Can we change that? Maybe just get them to wear a loose t-shirt for class and see if that changes anything. So sort of noticing these patterns that they start to form and how you can mitigate that early, but also pointing them in the right direction of help when they need it. Really emphasizing not skipping out on a warm-up or cool-down as much as that is unenjoyable. It's super important, as with any sport or activity. Trying to reinforce good habits from the start, not like, oh, we'll work on this later at some point. It has to be a good habit from the start, so that, because a bad habit is so much harder to change. So don't let it get to that stage, essentially. And yeah, having that network of professionals you can liaise with. So like, for example, if you're sending someone to maybe the speech therapist or the physiotherapist, they can help the student, but also they can probably keep you in loop of what to address based on that student's needs. For example, if I'm working with a student that a vocal coach has sent me, I'll probably let them know what I've done, and then I will tell them this is what to watch out for with this person, and then you can carry that forward with your classes. So if it's someone that's pulling their tongue back a lot when singing, I may give them an exercise to address that, and then I can let the coach know that that's what we've done, so they can watch out for it as well and come in from their perspective to address the same issue. So it's it then becomes a collaborative approach again. But yeah, just sort of being mindful of these telltale signs of like something's not right is super helpful and goes a long way. And then your standard practice of what you already do of like educating them on hydrating well, food habits, lifestyle factors, and steaming when needed, and all of these usual things that you already do.
Yes. We all kind of know it, but then like, sometimes you just get bored with it. I mean, as much as a singer, like as a student, they get bored with it doing the warm-up. I mean, coaches get really bored with it because sometimes you have to do it 5 times a day, 6 times a day with the different people, right? And then like, again, warm up 5 times. But these are important. So
Yeah.
yes, need to remind ourselves to stick to the details that actually matter.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Do not develop that bad habit and then catch it when it's still easy to fix, right? These are
Yeah.
the things that we need to really, be mindful of. Thank you so much for sharing all
No
that.
problems at all.
Yay. And also it's very nice to see that you are very open and proactive when it comes to, taking the collaborative approach
Yeah, for
in
sure.
really helping communicating with the people who are in the relevant, field of helping the singers. So definitely, as a singer, as a vocal coach, it's a really good habit to reach out to the different specialists when it comes to taking care of the students, because we do teach singing, but then it's good to know there are other specialists who can bring in your own specialties, your own treatment and the knowledge to cover the areas that maybe we might not be able to address, right? Full on. So knowing that really is very nice. Well, Pooja, thank you so much for
Thank you for having me.
joining us and then sharing more about your experiences in this field of the physio and then voice physio.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I loved hearing all the stories and then also the value of the work that you do. This is really cool. I love.
Thank you so much.
I love to see that there is more awareness of the care, not just mental care, right? In
No.
the performing arts scene, because it can get very competitive as well.
Yeah.
And then it's all that. It's all, when things start to go wrong, it's all in an effort of get things right, or when people
Yep.
are very desperate to catch it. These are the people who actually fall into that trap. If people don't care, if people don't really try, they don't even force their life
Yeah.
so much, right? So so it's really good to know that somebody's there to help these individuals who are very passionate in growth, professional way. So if anybody is interested and to know a little bit more, she's based in Singapore. You're based in Singapore. You have
I've
lovely.
moved back.
Yes, but your accent is like, I already told the team, like, oh, she has this very nice British accent.
Oh, I call it the international confused accent.
Yes, but you moved back now.
Yeah.
So, as a singer or as people who want to, get your voice checked, if you're experiencing a lot of vocal fatigue, you can definitely inquire. We'll leave information about how to contact her for the physiotherapy sessions in our description. So. And also, if you want to develop good habits and then really, sing nicely.
See,
then-
Hanna.
Yes, come and see us at the TVS. We'll be here as vocal coaches to help you further develop your singing. That's all for today's podcast. Find your inner voice, and so happy to be back with you and hope today's episode helped you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
The Vocal Studio.